Thanks everyone for joining me. This afternoon I'm here with Robert Ford and Wendy Bourne from Victorian Leaders, and I want to have a bit of a chat about leadership in 2019 and what that looks like. I think that's a really important thing that safety professionals tend to forget about, that their role is very much about managing people, relationships, leading organisations through change and through crisis situations, that sort of stuff. So I thought, who better to talk to than these two gurus? Robert, Wendy, thank you for joining me.
Great to be here, Luke.
Thank you. Tell us a bit about yourself, Robert. Where have you come from?
My background's out of banking and finance, Luke, 25 years in a couple of the major institutions, but a burning desire and a passion to help people build better, bigger businesses is what drove me to come into professional development and leadership here at Victorian Leaders, and I'm the CEO of and a part of the International Leaders Network.
Awesome. And Wendy?
So I work with Robert as his general manager, and I too share the same passion for wanting to help leaders to be better leaders.
And written a book.
I have written a book.
Let's do the plug. Let's get the plug in there.
I have written a book called The Languages of Leadership, which was published in February.
And how's that been received?
Good, really good.
We'll come
Very
back to
positive.
that.
Okay.
We'll have a brief talk about that.
Great.
So let's talk about leadership 2019. What's important? What are the challenges do you think are there now for leaders and managers in the workplace?
I would say to you that with the gig economy and the disintermediation now of people not necessarily wanting to work at the big end of town, they're all out trying to do their own thing, which is wonderful. But a lot of them don't actually or can't articulate their why. What is the driver, the real passion as to why they're doing what they're doing? And you would have seen Simon Sinek talk about the why rather than the how and the what is absolutely paramount, and so much time, effort and intellect is going into this. So we spend a lot of time on trying to get to people to unearth their why, and with more recent times I've had to do it myself.
We did the same. We did it earlier this year. A business has been going for 17 years, and we didn't have in place things like values and mission statements and visions and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So we spent time with HR gurus and Emily Jacks, working through what's our why and things like that. It is so important, and I think it's one thing you said, use the word passion. People have this passion. That's great. Does that necessarily articulate into a business? And then how do you articulate that into a successful business?
Yeah.
You can have a passion about anything. It's what you do with it.
That's right.
Wendy, what do you think?
So I agree, and if you don't know your why, you can often go off and diversify far too broadly, and then you become all things to all men, which is just not feasible. But I always liken your why as like the rudder of a ship. It keeps you in the right direction, and everything that you do comes back to that why. And if it doesn't, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You used a phrase there I'm really fond of. You can't be everything to everyone. And I think as a business, we've thought long and hard about that sort of stuff. We do investigations and investigation training, and we look at ICAM and how we use that for change and positive change. I don't think a week goes by that we're not getting multiple inquiries. Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? No. Can we? Absolutely. But no, it's not what we do. This is what we do. That's our market. That's our niche. That's where we found ourselves, globally. And I think that works. I think it's really easy to get drawn into, I could do that. I could do that.
Well, the whole essence of leadership is around this consistency of your messaging.
Yep.
And you, as the leader of the business, needs to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and then be able to clearly articulate that to the broader team. And that needs to align to your mission, vision, and values. Once you've got that, it's a bit like the rudder of the boat. It's
absolutely
full steam ahead.
What do you think's changed? So if we go back to your time, you said you came from finance, and what's changed, I think, from your first management role to where we are now in 2019 and beyond?
A lot more command and control, and I don't say that in a negative connotation, because that's the way it was, and I'm still very respectful of the time that I've had in the bank. But it started to move away from just being about the organisation to about the individual. So I sense there's an element of encouraging authenticity in people, wanting people to be open, honest and frank about how they're feeling within their organisation, and the whole thing around employee engagement is understanding clearly what your role and responsibilities are, but B, feeling valued by the organisation and feel that you're actively contributing in line with your own personal values. So that's where there's been a significant shift, I think.
And it's interesting because I think a lot of people use those words and in conversations, and they group it all up with millennials. I want to belong to an organisation that I feel valued by. I want to belong to an organisation that's giving something back.
Yeah.
That's not a millennial thing. I think that's a natural thing for people.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Wendy, what's your thoughts?
So neurologically, we are engineered or wired to connect to people. So we want to always feel part of a family, whether it's at home or whether it's at work. So being able to create that family now and that connection with people is critical.
Yep.
And I agree with Robert. We've gone from command and control to engagement and engaging with our employees, and we've shifted from knowledge is power to information is power, and now ideas are power. And we've kind of starting to shift to the Airbnbs and the Ubers, and so if you've got a brilliant idea, you've got all the power.
Absolutely.
And tapping into that.
But of course, you need to surround yourself with people that are equally or smarter than what you are.
Yep.
And the need that I saw in the market was to develop a community. You know, there are more coffee shops opening up in the world now than ever before, and yet everyone tells me everyone just wants to communicate electronically. It's not necessarily the case. People still value looking at the whites of the eyes, feeling the pressure of the flesh. It falls under Maslow's hierarchy of needs, about wanting to be a part of a community. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Victorian Leaders.
One thing I've spoken with a number of people about, I think one of the things that's really changed now as well is the increased level of scrutiny. Everyone's got a camera on their phone, and suddenly, there's scrutiny on what you're doing. If I put it in a safety perspective, there's a million videos or more out there of unsafe acts and stuff like that. And of course, you've got all your keyboard warriors that are weighing in on that, or the safety crusaders, as they're often referenced as. But I think just as importantly, you've also got that client-driven side of things. As soon as they have a bad experience, they're onto it.
That's right.
And that's changed. I think if we look way back, even my first management role, if someone wanted to complain, it was literally have to pick up the phone and talk to someone. And the reality is people don't do that. It's a lot easier to sit with the phone and
people often say the culture is set is by what you walk past. Now you can't, if there's something inappropriate or something not happening, if you choose to make that decision to walk past and accept it, someone will be there videoing it. I mean,
absolutely,
we've got to hold ourselves to account, to a high level of account. Not necessarily not because we have to, but because we want to. And we want to contribute to the greater good. So
absolutely.
And as leaders, we're always on show. Always. We are always being watched. We are always being assessed by everybody that works for us. So we need to be, on a ball and leading the way and showing the right behaviours and saying the right words. And
it's funny, we talk about, it's lonely at the top, but there's a hell of a lot of people that scrutinise you when you're at the top, isn't there?
Well, that's absolutely right. But look, and back to the older version or the older day of leadership, I mean, the leader needed to have the mortgage on the good idea.
Yes.
And the leader was the keeper of all knowledge. And if the leader didn't know, well, nothing got done. The realities are now that, as I said, you build your teams with people. You make yourself redundant as a leader. That's aspirationally what you want to do.
For sure. Do you think it differs, from for example, a department manager versus, like a C-suite leader or someone of a business? Are the same challenges and issues?
I think so, because I'd certainly, in a previous life, I used to empower and enable my people to make decisions and hold themselves to account. And that would be expected right through the organisation. So, people now, everyone talks about information. It's actually, information is easy to get. We just get online and we can get it. What people need are solutions. And they also need guidance, and they need to tease out these ideas, concepts and thoughts, and you need to create environments to achieve that. So for some it's easy to inculcate that within a framework in an office environment, but there is the lonely person syndrome for the CEO. So where do they go? Who do they go to? And again, that's what we've tried to create here as an opportunity for people to get together and share ideas, thoughts, and push ahead, build better, bigger businesses.
So I've done I've been through the Victorian Leaders Program, as is our chairman of the board, Jerry Gibb,
You have.
and the founder of Safety Wise. Thank you. Tell us a bit about the program. Well, obviously we know, but everyone else.
Sure. Well, we're all about inspiring business owners and trying to take away deal with that syndrome that is lonely at the top. Let people know that there are other people in exactly the same position as you, and that it doesn't have to be a lonely place. And as I said, you don't have to have all the right ideas, but the quality of leadership often comes back to the quality of the decisions you make, and that depends on the quality of the people you choose to surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
So, we want to talk about innovation, because the one thing I can guarantee you and everyone else that's watching is that today will be the slowest day of your life. It's just getting faster and faster and faster. Change is a constant. It's going to happen whether we like it or not.
I like that. That's an interesting way to look at things.
Yeah. So to meet with that change piece, you need to innovate. And innovation doesn't have to be off the spectrum. It can be simple little changes. You need to create a culture to do that. You need a framework to be able to work within. This is what we do at Leaders. We provide that collaborative framework in a cost-efficient, time-effective way for business leaders to come in half day per month, participate, learn, connect, valued connections, improved capabilities, so quality decision making and access to capital, things all business owners need.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly know from when I went through the program, it was good to meet like-minded people. It was interesting to see the mix in the room from the start-up to the seasoned experience.
Yeah.
And I certainly think when I went through, there was some really interesting mix of people there, from food manufacturing, clothes manufacturing, uniforms, that sort of stuff. And,
Sure.
And lo and behold, they had the exact same issues that I was facing, and as a business we were facing.
The lovely thing for me is that you're still engaged through the alumni, and I mean, it's not just, do the executive series for 12 months and then disappear. It's to remain engaged. And we're all still learning.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think what's that expression? The day you stop learning is the day you die, isn't
That's
it?
it. Wither on the vine. That's right.
Absolutely. Wendy, let's talk about your book for a second. The Language of Leadership. Tell us a bit about it.
Okay, well, it's about using your words, behaviours and actions to influence your boss, your team, people and your peers, basically.
Okay.
So it's full of lots of tools and techniques that you can apply tomorrow. So it's designed to be very practical.
Let's talk. I want to talk about that, but let's jump back a bit about this authenticity. We're talking about social media and being authentic. For many years, there was this mindset that as a manager or leader, you've got to hide your emotions. You can't put your emotions on your sleeve. But I think I feel that's really important. If I'm under pressure from the board or for other reasons, I want my staff members to know that, and I think that's really important. And I think that's a flip of where we've been for many years. You're meant to be straight-faced and
absolutely and under control all the time and have all the answers. But that's certainly not the case. People want to see your vulnerability, and look, that doesn't mean crying in front of them or falling apart. It's about saying, sometimes I don't have all the answers, or I've done this before and it failed dismally, and this is what I learned from it, so I don't want you to make the same mistakes.
For sure.
So it's just simple things like that tell your people that you've had a career too, and you've learnt along the way, and these are the mistakes you've made, and you share the pain, I guess, and the highs as well, and then that creates a connection and it builds trust, and
absolutely.
You need that foundation.
It doesn't, of course, excuse the point or obviate the need to still work within a framework.
Yes.
There are issues around compliance and governance. I used to say that leaders should, act as act as you must, not how you feel, not necessarily how you feel. So there were times of frustration when I was in the bank where I just wanted to, pull the place apart. But as a leader, you've got to set the tone. So it doesn't mean that people don't sense your frustration or your disappointment, and that's what you're talking about. It's displaying that, but it's doing it in a very respectful way.
Yes.
And accepting that you don't have all the answers. So in fact, maybe some of the things you're upset about, the problem sits with you, not with the organisation.
It's a good point. Yeah, for sure. Look, I appreciate the time. So what we'll do is we'll put a link to the Vic Leaders program with the video, so people can have a look at that and check that out. Thank you both for your time.
Pleasure.
Very much appreciate it.
Good on you, Luke. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you've got any questions you'd like to comment, please drop a comment below, and look, we'd be happy to have a chat to you, as would Robert and Wendy. Thanks for your time.